I threw my little sister out of my house, and now I don't know if I overreacted. My little sister is my only sibling. She moved in with me when she was 15 years when we lost our parents 8 years ago. It has been only her and me for years, and I don't play with her. She's almost 24 years now. 3 years ago, we moved into a 3-bedroom apartment, and I let her decorate the apartments the way she wanted. Since we've been living together for years, she's the woman of the house. I'm always busy with work, and I come home late at night. I'm hardly ever at home. I just give my sister money every month, and she's in charge of everything. She restocks the things we use daily, and she plans all our meals. Now, a few years ago, I started dating this amazing woman. She used to come to my house every Sunday, since that is the only day I'm at home. And even when she came around, we stay in my room all day. Even though she was not friends with my sister, they were on good terms when we were dating. I got married to this woman in February this year, and she moved in with my sister and I. Like I stated earlier, I'm a very busy man, so I'm only in the house in the evening and on Sundays. My wife is also a very busy woman, and so despite my wife moving into the house with us, my sister was still basically the one in charge of the house. She was still the one making the decisions in the house. My wife didn't mind this since she was hardly at home. Then we found out at the end of February that my wife was pregnant. The first trimester of her pregnancy was very bad. She was vomiting and weak throughout, and so I suggested she stop working and stay at home. My income was enough for both of us. Then after she gives birth, if she still wants to go back to work, she can. One day, my wife told me she wanted to redecorate our apartment. She was bored at home and she wanted to add her own touch to the place, and I told her to go ahead. And this is when all the problems started. When my sister realized my wife was redecorating the place, she asked her why, since to her the apartment looked perfect the way it was. My wife replied and told her she has never liked the decorating style and that she has always wanted to change things up, but she has not been able to because she has been busy with work. Then my sister responded and told my wife that she doesn't have any right to change anything in the apartment without asking her first. This turned into a heated back and forth exchange between the two of them, and when I got back home that night, my sister met me at the gate almost crying, complaining about what my wife was trying to do and the things my wife said to her. After listening to both sides, I realized my sister was wrong. Even though she has been the one in charge of the apartment for so long, I am married now, and now she was no longer the woman of the house. My wife is. And so if she decides to redecorate the apartment, she has every right to do that. My sister got very angry and accused me of taking my wife's side. I assured her I still loved her, but she was wrong in regards to this issue. Now, since my wife was at home now, she was now in charge of the house. We had a living maid who cleaned and cooked all our meals. Normally, it was my sister who would give her instructions on what to do, like the meals to cook and everything. My wife started giving the maid the instructions instead, and all hell broke loose. My wife told me she never really cared about the meals we ate before. She was okay with eating anything, but since she got pregnant, she had specific meals she wanted to eat, and sometimes these meals were difficult to make. Because of that, the maid spent all her time in preparing the meals for my wife. And according to my sister, she cannot eat the food my wife wants to eat. And since my wife has taken all the maid's time, the maid couldn't prepare what she wants to eat for her. To make peace, I decided to give her an allowance. I told her to leave the maid for my wife. If she feels like eating anything, she should just order. My sister said no, and that she prefers the maid's food to food outside. I told her the maid cannot prepare 2 meals at night for 2 different people. That is going to be too stressful for the maid, and my pregnant wife comes first. At this point, she was overreacting and misbehaving, so I warned her to behave. She was a grown woman, so I didn't understand why she was acting like a little girl. Then one day, I came home to find out that she had forced the maid to cook for her instead of my wife, and my wife had been waiting thinking the maid was preparing her food for her. My wife told me this was too stressful for her. She had a maid in her mother's house. She said if this was going to turn into a competition between her and my sister, then she would just move in with her mother. That way, she would have a maid assisting her, and then my sister can take the maid in our apartment for herself. I was like, no way. And that night, I called my sister and told her it was time for her to move out. She was a grown-up woman. It was time for her to move out and live her own life. I was ready to foot the bill for her apartment. I gave her 1 week to go look for a place she liked. I will pay the rent for her, and then she can move into her own place. She said she didn't want to live on her own, and that she wanted to live with me since I was her only family. But my mind was made up. I really loved my sister, but this was the best thing for everyone involved. When the 1 week came, she started giving me excuses. She told me she had not found an apartment she liked, but I knew this was a lie. Also, throughout this 1 week period, when I leave for work, she would argue back and forth with my wife. I just couldn't take it anymore. I gave her money and asked her to pack to an hotel the day the 1 week deadline ended. I was very busy throughout that week, and so I asked her to stay in the hotel for a week, and then that weekend, I would go out with her to search for an apartment. She cried and asked me how I could treat her this way after everything we've been through. She said I didn't love her anymore and that I was choosing my wife over her. But I've asked her several times to stop misbehaving, to stop acting like a little girl. And at this point, point, I think this is the best solution for everyone else. I had to force her out of the house to go to the hotel. I feel so bad right now. I just don't understand why she couldn't just be on good terms with my wife. Did I overreact? Am I the asshole? This follower needs your opinions, babes. Please drop some below. And don't forget to follow me for more story times.